Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today and hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. It's Friday, so it's PowerPoint Day for all my new students or followers out there. I used to do these PowerPoint presentations at the Yoga Circle from 1985 to 2019. And hope the visual helps a little bit here. This is called Rendezvous with Destiny. Destinari, of the stars. Where you're supposed to end up? Well, here are some hints. First, the Purusharthas, the four aims of life, according to the Indian tradition. First, there's Dharma. You learn what duty is. You align yourself with the cosmic law, and from their strict point of view, the obligatory duties of your caste that you're born into. Whether you're a Brahmin, the priest, the Kshatriya, the white-collar worker, the warrior, the Vaishya, the mercantile class, or the Sudra, the low level of uneducated jobs. But then Artha, you're supposed to accumulate what you need so you're not a parasite. Begins with adulthood. You work. You pursue wealth for your family, the community, and also you're the householders who are going to support the renunciates. Then Kama, you're supposed to balance your desire for pleasure with your desire for the divine. Not let your greed for more and another thing which usually doesn't fulfill, you let go of that. But everything is rolled into the pursuit of moksha, liberation. Begin any time. But you want to pursue the spirit through your intellectual knowledge, your devotional studies, your good deeds, and also in the quiet of your meditation. Now, how do you do this? Well, basically, it's upaya, skillful means. Find a teacher who shares something with you that resonates. Remember, any teacher can give you something to work on. That's called an upaguru. But your satguru, the one who gives you spiritual liberation, that's really what you're working towards. Clarifying, discriminating, and eventually attracting to yourself, magnetizing to yourself that being that could help you move to a deeper level. Now, you have to understand the idea about process. I like this idea about, you can't write a paragraph until you write sentences. You can't write sentences till you know words. You can't know words until you learn sounds and letters that go together. And in this case, right, you understand the sound comes before the letter comes before the word becomes before the sentence becomes before the paragraph. And they're reminding you that narrative paragraphs tell a story, persuasive paragraphs try to convince people, descriptive paragraphs describe things, and the expository or explanatory paragraph gives you information to explain something. So whether you're writing or talking, realize this is like a narration that you're giving. All right, from Bindu to Ojas. You learn about spirituality, and hopefully it breaks the mold. It takes you beyond your tradition. It takes you beyond the limited cultural background that each person is inculcated to in order to get into the universal current, the mystical current, the invisible current, right? The one that connects us all. So from Bindu to Ojas was the phrase that Ram Dass first used for his book, Be Here Now, from seed to creativity. You begin it, and then you flourish until you bring forth the flower and the fruit. And how do you do that? Well, self-actualization is the word that famous psychologist used to describe peak experiences. When people put themselves in environments where what's more likely to happen is a breakthrough or an aha. So like we say, a willow planted by the river almost has 100% chance of actualization because it's in the environment that it thrives best in. In a desert, not so much. So Abraham Maslow was the first person to coin that phrase. And it's an interesting thing that when you start to delineate, just even intellectually, what is the ideal way that a human being should open and grow? And then when you ask people ask them about their experiences, what have you done in your life that when you were doing it, either while you were doing it or right after you realized, this was fantastic, I hit a high point. Well, when you compare the lists of what people say when they actually have these experiences to what we say if we were designing a program, ideally, they're almost exactly the same. So how do you actualize yourself? If you're a willow, go by the river, not by the desert. Now, my teacher was always talking about the one-pointed effort called ekagrata, not let the path fall away, not get distracted. And I love this picture just because it shows you he did something really ingenious by using the tressler, sometimes called the horse or the puna pony, right? It gives you an unerring guide to where the midline is. So you see how he stepped up and he has that top leg thigh against the inner bar. Then he puts the message into his musculoskeletal system. That is where the center line is. And that it becomes your mentor. And then your spiritual path opens up. Everything you do, you practice sadhana like a crazy person. You don't let it go. It's the most important thing. Neglect other things, but not this. That gets you closer to your destiny. And then you have to accept the fight. There's going to be some struggle. As Viktor Frankl, survivor of Auschwitz, created logotherapy. As long as there's meaning, there's still a chance for you to bring something forth in your life, no matter how dire the circumstances are. And his quote was, "What must give light must endure burning. And those who fly closest to the light cast the biggest shadow." Ready to accept that? Move ahead. Death says play it safe. Life says take a risk. You got to get out there and do that. As we say, a ship in the harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for. It gets more barnacles by sitting still than it does by getting out there in the action. So commit yourself to getting out there. Death says play it safe. Life says take a risk. And then this is the narcissist belief system, just to check yourself at the gate. I'm superior to others. I'm entitled to more than others. People are out to get me, the paranoid aspect, and I am alone in knowing reality. Ooh, that kind of grandiosity is where you got to check in with a higher power and realize you ain't that much, chump. But ultimately, it leads you to the worst kind of egotism. I can only please one person per day. Today, I choose me. This is where you don't understand the pull of the first three chakras, which are the carnivorous, the malodorous, and the lecherous aspect of yourself. It's pushy, it's protective, it's all about me, it's looking out for number one, and that's not the way you're going to realize your destiny. So, check your understanding. Check your understanding of what I call the malodorous, the lecherous, and the carnivorous. Chakras 1, 2, and 3. And you'll see that's the way that you get bogged down and not fulfilling your destiny, but being held back by your own choices from the ignorance of not knowing what you're doing, where you're going, or how to play the game. Have a great day.